Thank you, Sandy. Thank you very much. I know all of you probably have to be here, so hopefully in the next 45 minutes or so, I can kind of, through my story and the experiences that I had in sports and outside of sports, from minor league baseball to professional football, in between to coaching and moving on to a whole new career at this point, I can share with you guys a lot of the stuff that I went through getting to Ferris and then moving forward. It's kind of a neat story, actually, how the whole thing built itself from where I started to where I am now. As Sandy said, I graduated in 1999 in applied speech communication, and I came to Ferris mostly because of family. So I didn't really know coming here why I was coming here, what I was doing. So the big thing for me after I got out of high school was my great-grandfather, Judge William Miller, who you might recognize from Miller Hall. He was a 1902 graduate of Ferris Institute. And then in 1906, he graduated from the University of Michigan Law. And after that, became on the first, as Ferris was becoming a state college, he was on the first board of control. He passed away, and he was on that board of control until he passed away in September of 1962, long before I was born. But Miller Hall was dedicated in 1963, again, well before I was born. My grandfather was in attendance, a couple of his siblings. So growing up, I heard about Judge William Miller and how important he was to the community I grew up in, which is in Escanaba, in the Upper Peninsula, that area. A little town called Rapid River is where actually I'm from, where he ended up having a law office there, did a lot of cool things for that community. At the same time, worked with Woodbridge Ferris at establishing Ferris as a state college and then eventually as a university. So to my grandfather, it was important. No grandkid had come to Ferris. I have a twin brother and a younger brother, so my twin brother was moving out east to go to school. At that time, my younger brother, I didn't know what he was doing, if he was even going to make it to high school, because he was kind of one of those younger brothers. And so it was important to me to come to Ferris for that reason, because my grandpa was beginning to get into his 90s, didn't know how much longer he was going to be around, so I wanted to come here for him. So when I got here, I really didn't know what I was doing, and I had to try to find my niche. I was very much involved with sports. I wanted to have a sports career somehow, which almost led me to go to Syracuse University because they have a broadcasting program there that I looked into very heavily when I was in high school and just kind of decided against it at that time to come here more. So when I got here, I'd spent a year at community school just trying to figure some stuff out. I wanted a degree somehow in sports field, communication, public relations. At that time, Ferris didn't really have much except the applied speech communication program. So when I started to look into it, and it got down to the program and then knowing how I wanted to build the sports, I didn't know. I wanted to be in sports, whether it be PR, whether it be broadcasting, whether it be maybe athletic departments, but I didn't know how to work it totally. So as I met with some advisors, Donna Smith at the time, and Sandy, we kind of built a program through television production with Steve. I spent a lot of time in the television production classes. I took a bunch of those. And then, of course, the communication classes that I had as well. So it became something where I knew I had to get some sort of degree, some sort of experience in television production with a focus on communication as well. But at the same time, the first thing I did when I got to Ferris, the second day I was on campus, I got a job in the sports information department with a gentleman by the name of Joel Gorby. And through that, oops, I'm not good at PowerPoint. Through sports information department, which is basically designing the media guides, you're at every game, you're at every sporting event, taking stats. I was involved with dealing with the teams, dealing with the coaches. As the years went on, I spent 3 years in the sports information department. I pretty much ran everything my senior year, at hockey games, at football games, at basketball games, running all the stats, punching everything into the computers, getting them back, sending out press releases. So that's where I really learned through that department how the back end of the sports industry worked. Through the television production, we were doing videotaping games. We were in the trucks, directing games, directing broadcasts of football games, which I gotta be honest with you, I liked a lot, and I was good at it. And that was a direction I thought maybe I would go into directing sporting events, that you see on TV with the multiple cameras behind the scenes. That was really something I was interested in for a while and considered a lot. WFSU was a radio station that at the time really wasn't up and running. We kind of got it back up and running. So at WFSU, there was only a few of us then that were even involved with being in the station or having anything to do with the station. So we were DJs a few days a week, and it just broadcast on the campus network station that you see. I had some ideas what I wanted to do, and it never did materialize, but I actually wanted to bring players, athletes, and coaches in and have a sports show for a couple hours, 2 nights a week, and interview basketball players and hockey players, whatever season was going on. And it never did work out, but it was always something that was in the back of my mind to do. Sports radio now is huge, right? It's huge. It's huge. It's on all day, every day. And at that time, it was very brand new. And WFSU at then was so small. There was only a handful of us. We really didn't know how to get it going and working. Is it even around? Is it working?
I'm working on it. We literally just started it back up.
So it didn't last much longer into the...
No, it just went under in like 2014. So, and then...
Now you're getting it back up. To me, it was a very important thing. I don't know if anyone ever listened to it, to be honest with you. They probably didn't. No one ever called in requesting songs, so I guess maybe they didn't. And I would talk a lot about sports on the air as much as I could in between playing music. And that was kind of my thing. My DJ name was the Gipper, for your Notre Dame fans. That was my call sign. Maverick was taken, so I couldn't use Maverick because that was already taken. You guys are too young for that joke? No? All right. Campus Conversations is a thing that I did through the television production where I interviewed President Cedarburg and had live interviews with him. I think we did 4 shows in the time I was here. So we actually sat down with him and asked him questions. People would call in. Most likely my roommates would call in and ask him a stupid question and try to get me laugh on live TV, which I did a couple times because it was funny. And they were not very smart questions, like about parking or whatever. But through that, again, now I'm in front of the camera. Now I don't really have a face for TV. It's more for radio, so I was probably better suited for that anyway. But at that time, with the television production and knowing both sides of how it worked, I knew how it worked on this side, and now I was on this side. And at that time, it was coming up to trying to decide what I was going to do for an internship. I knew I needed an internship. So where was I going to go to look? I sent out resumes to radio stations in the Detroit area, the Grand Rapids area. I sent out a resume to the Whitecaps in Grand Rapids, looking for a summer internship there. And it turned out I went to Fox 2 News in Detroit and interviewed with Woody Woodruff, who is still an on-air talent. Spent 20 minutes with him, and on my way back, I drove from here to Detroit, interviewed with him, and on my way back, he had called and left a message and said they offered me an internship for the summer. So, which was really neat, working at Fox 2 News. And the same guys are still there, as I'll get into in a second. And that was what I did with my internship. So I spent the summer getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I lived with my cousin in Rochester. He did construction, so I was in concrete doing curbs. It was horrible. It was the worst thing. It was awful. It was the worst thing ever. So I would do that from 5 to 2, and then at 3 o'clock, I'd go into the radio station, which is the TV station in Southfield, and I'd work there from 4 to 11. So you did the 5 o'clock news, the 6 o'clock news, and then the 10 o'clock news. And my big responsibility then as an intern right away was watching and logging sporting events. So whatever game was on locally, Tigers, Pistons, Red Wings, we'd watch the game. They had the clocks running right down to the nanosecond. If something happened, you logged it. So when you went back after the game was over with or before the broadcast, we'd have to go into the edit room and edit clips. And they'd have a union guy sitting there that you told him what to do, where to stop the tape. He would cut it how you wanted it. And that got sent back over to the on-air talents, which were Dan Miller, Woody Woodruff, Jennifer Hammond, who are all still there today, if you ever watch Fox 2 Sports. They're all, Dan Miller's the voice of the Lions now. He's been there a long time. So very cool people. I learned a tremendous amount from them. The producer at Fox 2 News at that time was a guy by the name of Mike Andro, who's not there anymore. Everything was behind the scenes there. I got to go to Old Tiger Stadium and stand behind Josh Lewin and Kirk Gibson during a couple Tigers games as they were doing their broadcast on Fox Sports Detroit. Back then it was probably 40 games a year, 50 games a year. Now it's pretty much every game's on. That was a neat experience. The press box in Old Tiger Stadium was about as wide as from here to then that table. So you're all kind of just crammed in. I was standing behind them, and they were sitting right there. And I tried to get Kirk Gibson's autograph, but he doesn't like that kind of stuff, so he didn't give it to me, which is all right. But that experience too, once I got to do stuff like that, and then there were other responsibilities that I had, part of my internship. That year, the Red Wings won the Stanley Cup in '98. It was their back-to-back. They won in '97, and they won again in '98. So I was working the night that they won. They won in Washington. So Dan Miller was on the air. It was 10:27. He was finishing up his sports wrap. They scored the winning goal. I ran out into the studio. He's over where Steve is, talking to the camera, and I gave him the thumbs up, and he announced on the air that the Wings won the Stanley Cup. And we were on the air till 3 o'clock in the morning, covering all the celebration. They had trucks and camera crews everywhere. So as stuff would come in, we would sit down and edit the tapes out, give it to Dan Miller, Woody, or Jennifer, write copy for them real quick. We would make notes for them. They didn't like their copy written. Like any good sports broadcaster doesn't want his copy totally written, but we would give him sketches and ideas, and then he would write their copies from there. So that's what we did for 5 hours. Like literally straight 5 hours. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I went home and then got up at 5 and went to work and then did it all over again the next day. Such is the life of an intern. Okay, so that was a really cool thing. The last thing I had to do was I actually had to produce a sports show on a Sunday, which was an hour, SportsWorks. So at the end of my internship, my responsibility was to produce the whole show. That means set up all the tape, set up all the copy, put in order what's most important, what's second and third, fourth. There were guys that would be in-house interviewing. Jamie Samuelson who was a radio guy in Detroit still. Matt Derry, he was in that day. So those guys would talk to Woody Woodruff. They would interview them and talk about whatever. It just so happened to be the day at Michigan International Speedway where there was an accident, an Indy race. A car slammed into the concrete rail. The tire and the axle flew off into the bleachers and killed 3 people, instantly killed 3 people, and injured a dozen more. And they kept the race going. It became a big thing. It blew up fast. So here I am, I'm in charge, and they're all looking at me once we see it happen on TV. Okay, so what do? Send a truck and a camera crew out? Yeah, sure, okay, do it. So I send them out. I'm in constant contact with them. They're interviewing people. The race kept going. They finished the race. It was a big controversy at the time. A lot of people weren't happy about it with fatalities, that they kept the race going. I believe it was the last IndyCar race ever at Michigan International Speedway. They shut it down, and then they've actually built the concrete walls up a little higher now. But it was a big deal. On top of that, the Tigers were in a big series, so there was all kinds of things going on. It was my second to last day there before I had to leave and come back for my senior year here. So that was a really neat experience. The internship, and I'll talk about the other one, the internship that I had there set the tone for what I did going forward. There were 3 of us that were interns at Fox 2 that summer, out of 100 and some people that interviewed. It was a really neat experience. If you're interested at all into either behind the scenes or in front of the camera, that's kind of where you want to lead yourself to as far as doing any internships. Gain experience. classroom is one thing. People want to see experience. People want to see the sports information stuff, the radio stuff, the internships that they do. They're not really worried about your GPA. That's an okay thing, but they want to see that you've got experience into what you're trying to get into. And that will help you further down the road. It certainly helped me as I went forward. As I came back that fall, I knew I had to start looking for a job because I was graduating in May. What the hell was I going to do? I really had no idea. So come December, I'm searching around and I see this minor league baseball thing pop up, right? What minor league baseball? Okay, all right. So what's that? So they have this thing, the baseball winter meetings, which happens every year. It's where you'll see all, big free agents will get signed. There's big meetings. The rule changes will happen for you baseball guys or girls out there. It's a big deal for 4 or 5 days. Part of the baseball winter meetings at this time it was in Nashville, Tennessee. Minor league baseball has a job fair. Go down and try to get a job. A lot of internships, not much full-time stuff. But I said, okay, I guess. I guess. So I copied 50 resumes, went down, had no idea what I was doing. I got to Dollywood. It was at Dollywood Hotel. I had no idea what I was doing. I just kind of parked. I got a hotel room. You walk around. There wasn't a lot of direction. There were 745 people, they said, at the opening for 400 jobs. So there's your 1 in 2 chance. And most of the jobs are nothing that I even remotely was interested in. Stadium operations or tickets. I wanted public relations, media relations, broadcasting. That's where I kind of looked for. So what you did was they had this huge room and all these tables and boxes set up, and they would have a job would be posted. And you'd come by the job that you wanted, and you throw your resume in it. And you'd walk around and see all these different things. And the resumes and boxes would be stacked. It'd be like a book in there. So a couple hours later, as the general managers and the people in charge of the teams went through them, they would post an interview board. So your name would be on this huge board that you got an interview for one of the positions that you put in. Now I probably dropped 30 resumes. I got 5 interviews. You have a time slot and your name. And there's a whole, there's 40, 50 people interviewing for one job, every job there. So you go to this interview. The first interview I got was for the Ranch Cucamonga. I can't remember their surname now, but it was in the valley in San Bernardino in California, like in the valley. And they offered me the job on the spot. It was a short season team, so they played like 120 games. And I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to California living in the valley. That's not happening. I just wasn't interested. The other 4 jobs I interviewed with didn't go very well. I didn't really like it, or they didn't like me. So I was kind of feeling pretty down, didn't know where I was going to go from there. The next day was another day. And then I come across, after the interview process, Maryland Baseball Company, who was having a big little job fair. Maryland Baseball, at that time, owned 3 of the Orioles affiliates, Baltimore Orioles affiliates. The Bowie Bay Sox, which is a AA affiliate, the Frederick Keys, which is the high A affiliate, and the Delmarva Shorebirds, which is the low A affiliate. So their ownership owned all 3 of those teams. The food service, the merchandising, they owned everything. So they had all these interviews going on. I kept trying to talk to the general manager of the Bowie Bay Sox. His name was John Danos. Try to get an interview with him. It was basically like you stand in line. It was like Kate Upton walking into the room and us guys trying to talk to her. It was you couldn't get to her. It couldn't happen. So I never did get a chance to talk to him. I got his number, his hotel room number. I called up his hotel room a few times. His wife answered, "Oh, he'll get back to you. He'll get back to you." I was leaving that day to come back because I had finals. I couldn't stay. I had to come back and study for finals. So I never did talk to the guy. And I left there thinking, well, that was that. That didn't work out too well. So as I get back, I'm taking finals. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go home for Christmas break. I'll come back and refocus, see where else maybe I can go. Again, you're graduating in May, right? That was my thought. I'm graduating in May. I'm not coming back unless I come back for a master's. I need to get a job. Like, that was my focus. I got to get a job. I got to start paying. Student loans are going to come up. I got to start paying those things. I'm not going back to my parents' house. That wasn't an option. There's no way that was happening up in the UP. So I had to get a job, right? So the day before I'm leaving, the phone rings I was living in a house on Division Street. This gentleman by the name of Dave Collins calls me from the Bowie Bay Sox. He's the director of public relations, and he's the voice of the Bay Sox on the radio. Dave's a really neat guy who should be a NASA scientist, and he's working in minor league baseball and doing radio. He is a mathematician extraordinaire. And I'll tell you a good story about that in a couple minutes. So the guy, he calls me. Justin, is Dave Collins from the Bowie Bay Sox. Of course, my roommate answers the phone, so that was bad because he said I wasn't there, kind of thought it was a prank call, gave the guy a hard time a little bit, which at the time I didn't really know Dave, but as I got to know Dave, I understood how he didn't take it very well. He's not that kind of guy. He's a smart guy. He didn't like that. My roommate thought he was being funny. So I get on the phone with the guy. Hey, Justin, this is Dave Collins of the Bowie Bay Sox. Hey, Dave. So I talked to him. He said, John Danos said you tried to get a hold of him. I got hold of your resume right here. We would like to hire you as the intern in the media relations department for the upcoming baseball season. Really? That's fantastic. Yep. And, very dry, very to the point guy. So, so we'll see you March 21st or 22nd. What? Well, yeah, March. I need you here like the third week of March. We start in April. I don't graduate till May. Oh, that's not going to work, he tells me. I'll have to go to the next guy in the list. So I said, well, let me try to figure something. Can you give me a few weeks to try to figure something out then? So now it becomes, how am I going to do that? So this guy calls me, Charlie Vassalero. He's the director of media relations for Maryland baseball for all three teams. So he calls me 10 minutes after I talked to Dave. Hey, Charlie, the same conversation. I'm like, yeah, Dave just talked to me. Oh, well, we want to hire you as an intern for all three teams. I was like, well, aren't you guys kind of together? He goes, yeah. Well, did you talk to Dave? I just talked to Mr. Collins. So it was a little confusing. And then he says, yeah, can you be here March 22nd? So I tell him the same thing. Oh, he's like, well, yeah, I don't think that'll work. I just started last week, so I'm not sure how it works, but I think you got to be here before the season starts. So I thought, yeah, I guess. He goes, yeah, I'll have to find that out, he says. Charlie's a tremendous baseball guy. I got a couple good stories with him too. But he didn't know what he was doing. So the whole thing was kind of confusing to me and to them, right? So I go back home. I tell my parents, hey, how am I going to work this out? This is what I want to do. This is really, I get to move to Maryland and live in Annapolis, work in Bowie, Baltimore, the Orioles. I was a big Cal Ripken fan. I wrote a speech about Cal Ripken in one of my speech classes in '98, which I still have, by the way. Good speech. And I did show it to him. There's another story, too. I actually gave him a copy of it when I met him. But so that was a big deal to me. So how am I going to do this? So my parents were like, whatever. My dad was like, just don't come back. I don't care what you got to do. Just stay away. So I get back here, and now we got to figure out how am I going to get to Maryland. So I got to meet with all the professors, Sandy and Gary Horn and Donna and Neil and ask them, and I even talked to President Cederberg about it, how do I get done early? How do I leave in March when I don't graduate till May? And how many seniors are in here? All the work you got to do, right? This last semester to get done and graduate? So how am I going to do that and still party a little bit? That was a big concern. I need to go out in style, right? Earth Day's coming up. I'm going to miss Earth Day? Seriously? Well, I got to make up for that. So how's that going to work? And they basically, all my professors were great. Sandy and I talked about it a lot. How am I going to finish on March 20th and get everything done so I can graduate? Now, that means I'm not going to walk because I can't, which made my mom a little disappointed. But how am I going to do all that so I have everything done? Well, basically it was like, yeah, if you can do it, do it. That was kind of the response. Go for it. See what happens. The only kicker, the little stink pot of it was, I was in a debate that was in Dayton, Ohio in April, okay, on smoking. And I had to go to this debate. I had to, or I couldn't graduate. So I left on March 20th, drove to Maryland, had called someone, and I rented an upstairs part of a house in Annapolis. Annapolis is a great city, by the way. If you're ever out there and check Annapolis out, it's awesome. So I spent 3.5, 4 weeks out there. I took all my research with me for this debate. I didn't look at it once. I never even glanced at it. So I fly to Dayton. My partner's not happy with me at all. She's been working on this thing for 4 weeks because we were partners, right? I got it. That's all I told her. I got it. I got it. I'm the best BSer there is. I got it. So we take second place team, and I take 8th place individual. And I didn't look at anything for 5 weeks or 6 weeks. Nothing. Mr. Horn thought I was the greatest debater on the face of the earth. Like, he was giving me all kinds of pride. He's like, Mel, Justin, you must have been looking at this on all your spare time. Nope. Not once. Never even took it out of the little box it was in that I shipped with me to Maryland. Not one time. Not one time. So now I'm there, and there I am in the press box, opening night, April 15th or 14th, 1999, whatever it is. That was our PA announcer. So here I am. Baseball's getting ready to start. The batting cages are out. I remember getting to the stadium that first day, and I drove up, and I parked, and I had a hard time finding it. No GPS back then, right? You gotta know your north, south, east, and west. So I had a hard time finding it, and I got there. I was like a half hour, 45 minutes late for my first day, and I run in this office, and the receptionist is there. And I'm like, hey, I'm Justin Decremer. I'm here. I'm your media relations intern. She's like, you're who? I'm Justin Decremer. I'm the media relations intern. I'm supposed to work with Dave Count. She's like, oh, okay. Well, why? Yeah, okay. So this guy Dave comes up. Pants pulled up to here. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, right? He's got a tucked-in T-shirt, or you wear a polo shirt a lot. Mountain Dew in his hand. I always had a Mountain Dew in his hand. And I meet this guy, and it's like, I'm sorry, you're Dave? Yeah, I'm Dave Collins. Yeah, I'm Dave Collins. He shakes my hand, and I'm looking at this guy thinking, how is this guy the public relations director for this team? This is crazy. He's got the little pencil thing going, So we walk back into the office, and everyone else is dressed up. It's not shirt and tie stuff, but they're khakis. And I meet the Charlie Vassalero, the media relations guy from Maryland baseball. He was 10 years older than me. Dave was like 15 years older. Everyone else in the office, late 20s, early 30s. A couple older guys that were salesmen or advertise specialists. But everyone was kind of, and as I learned, minor league baseball is a young woman's game because of everything you got to do. It's tough. So young people really get drawn to that industry big time. So as he's showing me around, I get to meet Dave. He's showing me all this stuff, going through all the things that I had to do. Charlie tells me, hey, Dave's really smart with math. So I said, really? So I said, hey, Dave, what's 221 times 97? And he rattled it off to the decimal point, just like that. Just like that. The guy did stats in his head during the game. So if Dave would get frazzled easy, and if we were stressing out before a game, I would always shoot him some stupid math problem, the square root of 198 or something dumb, and he would just spit out the answer and get to kind of calm him down. Dave was the guy that would be stressed out 5 minutes before he put on the headset to go on the radio, and then he shifted gears, and he was the best play-by-play guy, minus Ernie Harwell, I ever heard to this day. The guy was awesome. Knew baseball, loved baseball, was great at calling a game and painting a picture on the radio of what was happening. He was a machine, and he didn't prep. It was the craziest thing. The guy never prepped, and he had it all in his head. So life as an intern in the minors for me, number one, I learned right away is long hours. You get there at 9, it's not 9 to 4, 9 to 5. It's 9 to 8, 9, 10. We're doing all kinds of things, getting ready for the season. During the season, you have 8, 10-game homestands. We're there till 11 o'clock. Then we're going across the street to Applebee's, and you get home at 2, and then you wake up, and you're getting right back in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning again, and you just do the whole thing over. So it's extreme long hours. And you're not getting paid. We got paid $800 a month. That's what I got paid. And I think it averaged out to about $1.85 an hour when I figured it out one time. It wasn't much, but the experiences that I got were tremendous as far as how it moved me into what I was doing. So in the morning, if we had games going on, or even if the team was on the road, Dave traveled with the team. He was the radio guy of every game, all 142 games. So he was gone. When the team was gone, Dave was gone. So he would call me back at the office in the morning, relay me some information. I would get out to the media, press releases. I would call the media if they wanted to talk about anything that happened the night before. This is like, Bowie, Maryland's a small town. The Bay Sox were big. These communities loved, like Grand Rapids with the Whitecaps. They loved their team. They covered their team. It was their team. It was their Tigers. The local media covered these guys all the time, and they wanted information. So we had to write press releases. If a big prospect was coming to town, you had to get a press release out. If an Oriole was doing a rehab assignment, you got a press release out, and so forth and so on. And I was in charge of that, especially when Dave was on the road. In the afternoons, when you're getting ready for the game, I got to go run down to the managers, speak to the managers, get their lineup cards, bring them back up, print them out, write them down, print them out. We had girls that would stuff them in the programs or the little inserts that we would hand out. Media always wanted to do interviews before a game, especially home games. If we had the top prospect that year was a kid by the name of Matt Reilly, who was from California. He was a left-handed pitcher, threw about 94, 95, had a curveball that broke at about 85, a foot and a half or so, had a decent slider. He was a really good pitcher. He was a knucklehead, though. So the media loved him because he would always say something stupid. So whenever he was in town, and we had to get to the point where we kept him away from the media. So if a guy called me, I wanted to talk to Matt, I would say, no, you know what? He's not available today. He's in the pen throwing, or his arm's sore. He's getting it worked on by the trainer. And they knew I was making it up, but we wouldn't let him talk to him. And the manager and the Orioles didn't want him to talk. I handed him a baseball one time to get signed for a kid, and he signed it in the shoe of the baseball, which is like, you might as well just keep the baseball because it's worth nothing, signing it in the shoe of the baseball. You got to sign it in the sweet spot. This kid signs it in the shoe because he thinks he's that good. So I literally told him, I'll keep it. I can't give this to somebody, but thanks. And as you deal with things like that, and then as far as the stats are concerned, Dave was in his head all the time, but we couldn't do that. So I was in charge of getting stats to the media that was in the press box, the out-of-town scores. We would call different stadiums and teams in our league and get information, how they were doing. This is way before you sat in a press box with a computer and you could look it all up instantly. We actually had to get the information. These guys would shout, the media would shout it up to me as I sat down, and if they had that picture, I would sit right down and look over the field, information that they needed at the time. Hey, what's this guy's ERA after he throws these 2 1/3 innings and he gave up 5 hits and 2 runs? So we'd figure it out and give it to him. Datatronics is a big thing in baseball. People want stats now more than ever. If you're into numbers and you like that kind of thing, stats is huge. These minor league guys, their chances of making it to the big leagues are slim and zero. The 3 seasons that I was there, all the guys that I met, Jason Worth, who now plays for the Nationals, Eric Bedard was a pitcher for the Orioles and the Mariners for a while. I met Josh Hamilton, who was in baseball, out of baseball, back into baseball when he was 18 years old. Other than that, there's not a lot. So stats for them of how they're going to go up levels and down levels are big. It is a big thing. Scouts love it. I talk to scouts all the time just to kind of see what they would say. there were a couple scouts from the Yankees that would be a lot of games, and they would just tell me, that guy's a 3-tool guy. He's a 4-tool guy. His numbers aren't good here. He's never going to make it past AA. In fact, you know what? Next week he's probably going to get dropped back down. I wouldn't doubt it. And sure enough, a lot of times they were right, because those guys had the inside scoop too. So they wanted numbers all the time. If a scout called me, I had to give them stats on right now. So I either had to get it from Dave, or I had to try to figure it out. Hey, you know what? I'll get back to you in 10 minutes. Okay, fine, no problem. Thanks. So the stats part was a big part of it to me, and I loved it. It was really cool for me to sit down and figure that stuff out. I knew how to keep score in baseball, but I never really was a numbers guy at that point. And it was actually pretty easy once you got the niche of it. Once the game started, 27 things could happen. So we really had to be on our toes all the time. Dave was doing his thing. So if something came down, if the manager called up and they wanted something I had to deal with, the Orioles would have people there all the time looking at players. They would want information. The media would want stuff. So you're constantly, I never really sat and watched a game very much because you were constantly doing something. We had a 19-inning game that went to 1:30 in the morning. It started at 7 and went to 1:30 in the morning. It was 19 innings. One guy was 0 for 12 and left 27 people on base or something ridiculous. It was awful. And we're still, at 12 o'clock, you're still running around. And there was like 2,000 people still in the stadium. I thought it was crazy. And we lost, of course. That year, that team wasn't very good. I think they finished 500. So once game time was over with and I had to update stats, the out-of-town stuff, I would go back in the office. You fax all this information out, right? Again, way before emails, way before you could just get online, you had to send it all via fax machine. So you type in the number, the Baltimore Sun, the News, the Herald, whatever sheet you had to type out. There was like 12 or 15 newspapers I had to send information to, and you fax it through. And it took me an hour and a half generally to get everything through. So again, that's your long hours. It's not easy. On top of that, you got multiple jobs to do. Tarp Crew to the field was not something that I ever wanted to hear because we're the Tarp Crew. There is no Tarp Crew. They got a groundskeeper and a couple helpers. So you see the guys, Co-America Park, that run the tarp on the field when the rain's coming, that's us. So I would have to have a multiple change of clothes if I knew it was raining or storms are coming. In Maryland, it can storm anytime. And you're running on the field, you're soaking wet, you're muddy, you're running back off, you're running back on. Sometimes it would happen 4 or 5 times a night where they'd need a tarp on. So I'd change, and I'd change again. And then after a while, I would just stay in my wet clothes because what was the point after that? So Tarp Crew was not a cool thing. If it was raining at 6 o'clock in the morning and they needed a tarp on the field, they would call us at 5:30 to come in and put the tarp on because we were the crews that did it. Then either you stay there. Sometimes I'd go up in a suite and take a nap till 8 o'clock and then get ready, or just stay up and start working. Obviously, when the team's on the road, you don't got to worry about that. Stadium operations. If something happens within the stadium, either during the game or while things are going on, we're helping with things. We're unloading trucks. We're unloading food service items. We're unloading merchandise items. We're helping the stadium op guys get ready with whatever it is they got to do or whatever it is they're working on. They got one guy, and that can't do everything. So as an intern, even some of the full-time guys, the general manager would pitch in at times. Everyone was kind of doing little things all the time. That's the life of minor league baseball. It's not the Tigers or the Lions where there's multiple people. It's a small staff. So you really got to fill in as best you can. Ticket operations. This is how I learned ticket operations. How to deal with season ticket holders and sending invoices and doing all. We did it too. We sent the stuff out. We sent group packages out. We called people on the phone. Hey, I see that, you bought 10 tickets a month ago. Do you want to buy 10 more? And you're trying to get people in the stadium. Sandy talked about it earlier. Attendance is huge. Attendance is how the sports industry revolves. You got to get people in the seats. They count it. They track it. A lot of it's paid attendance. So they announce the attendance of 10,872, and you're looking out there going, there's 27 people in the building. But it's all paid. So you've got to sell tickets. You've got to get word out. You got to get people in the seats. So as a media relations intern, that was part of my job too, to send different things out, to go to community events, to talk to people about the Bay Sox, to get them interested, to get them in the seats, because that's what pays the bills. If you don't get people in the seats, you're not selling merchandise, you're not selling food. You want people to buy a ticket, buy beers, buy food, buy merchandise. That's what you're trying to do. You got to make money. If you don't make money, they'll sell the team off. A different general manager will come in. It's not about wins and losses in minor league baseball. It's about getting people in the seats and getting paid. That's what they look for. That's all they care about. That's all the owners cared about. Hey, how much money we make this month? Well, how many people are in the stadium? Well, that's not good enough. I know we're a 500 team, but it's not good enough. And ticket operations is a big part of that because they're dealing with all of that. There are season ticket holders and there are other people. So you're trying to get the word out the best you can. Louie the mascot. Let me tell you about Louie the mascot. Big head, big nose. You put this thing out, it's like a hoop that kind of went around and the feet were this big. I was Louie the mascot many times. Going to school events. You're looking like the head's this way and the eyes are up here. All you can see is your feet as you're walking. You can't, your eye level's there. Even looking straight ahead, you can't see out. So someone's got to kind of help you along. Then there was a time I got the call on the radio that said, on a Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock, it's 95 degrees out. Hey, the guy called in sick. Can you be the mascot today? That was my reaction. I probably said something in there too as I was doing that. Now it's 95 degrees. You're in this costume. You can't see. You're walking around. Kids are poking at you. They're grabbing your nose. They wanted me to go up to the second level to talk to some suite holders that were up there, a big group that spent some money. Sure, no problem. I'll go up there. You know, you don't talk in the thing, but they kind of they shake their hands. You do some funny, stupid things. So they wanted me to go out of the suite down into where the seats are. So I start walking down. Now these feet are huge. I stumble, hit the railing, and I'm going over. Like I'm falling over, and grabbed myself and pulled myself up. They all thought it was funny, like I did it on purpose. Oh, look at Louie. He faked like he almost fell. No, dude, I almost did fall over. And thanks for helping me out, by the way, because no one did anything but laugh. So I was in that thing the whole game, and this is how I looked after. That's not water, by the way. My good Denver Broncos t-shirt was ruined, which I wasn't very happy about. So after this day, you can see how thick that stupid thing is. I told the general manager, I said, man, no offense, but I can't do that again. That's crazy. That's heat exhaustion. That's death waiting to happen. I almost fell over the railing. You know, if I would have fell over the railing, I probably would have bounced a little bit because the thing was so big. You know, something would have broke the fall. But yeah, that was the last time I was Louie the mascot. Again, life of being an intern, right? The general manager wasn't going to get in the uniform, so let's get Justin, the intern, to do it, because the other interns were all girls, and they sure weren't doing it. So I'll do it. And I never said no to much. So after that, the season ends as an internship. Just one summer. So I got to find a job. So the Delmarva Shorebirds were the single A affiliate of the Orioles. They had an opening in their public relations department. I knew the general manager. I'd met him a few times at other games. He offered me a position to be the director of media and public relations for the Delmarva Shorebirds on the Eastern Shore. So if you know where Salisbury, Maryland is, Ocean City, Purdue Stadium was the name of the stadium because Jim Purdue, the owner of Purdue Chicken, was the owner of the Delmarva Shorebirds. They had a chicken factory right across the street from the stadium. And if the wind blew in the right direction, those of you who've never smelled chicken poop before, or what chickens smell like as they're being processed, it's not very good. This guy was intense about baseball. He loved baseball. The owner, the old man who wasn't involved in Purdue Chicken anymore, was at every game. The guy was great. He was like everyone's grandpa. So I took the job and loved it. Moved to the Eastern Shore, by the ocean. I ended up moving to Ocean City, During that first summer that I was there, I had a condo on the beach from me to the press box away. If we weren't working, we were at the beach. Ocean City was great. At 24 years old, what more could you ask for, really? So as I got that job, I realized, and I was told right away, hey, you're the youngest PR and media relations director in the South Atlantic League. Oh, really? At the time, the Shorebirds didn't really do a lot of PR and media relations. The guy that was there before was doing both radio and advertising. He was selling group tickets because, again, that's what you do. My other responsibility as director of media relations was a group sales director. So I was in charge of the overall sales of the group sales department, which was 2 people, to keep track of their sales, get them to sell tickets, again, getting people in the seats, right? So I knew right away I had to change the culture of how they perform their media and public relations. So the first week I was there, I blasted out 7 press releases about whatever I could. Me getting hired, the next step towards the Shorebirds, the upcoming season. Hey, look, we got this going on. I set up a couple community things, to get the word out. Now this is September, October, before the season starts in April. I called all the TV stations. There were 2 local TV stations on the Eastern Shore, ABC affiliate and an NBC affiliate. And I called their sports department and met with their guys, their head anchors and their camera guys, and talked to them about, hey man, you need to be at every game this year, every home game. I want to see your cameras in the press box. I want you guys on the field doing interviews. Get as much exposure as you guys can. Whatever you need, I'll hook you up. It doesn't matter. Change the culture. Get people in the seats. I learned early in professional sports, it's about getting people in the seats. That's all anyone cares about. So PR and media relations is a huge avenue for that. And I did that, and we did that, and I had a couple guys help me with that. Joe Ferguson was named our manager. Joe Ferguson was the catcher when Hank Aaron broke the home run record back when the Braves, way back when. Joe Ferguson called the pitch that Hank Aaron hit out that broke the record. Joe Ferguson never talked about it. He was a really good guy. If you asked him about it, he would just shake his head. He got drunk one night. I kind of helped that situation, and he talked about it. Calling the pitch, watching Hank Aaron hit it, watching him run around the bases. You guys ever see the clip of Hank Aaron hitting 744 and breaking the record? He runs around the bases. The guy comes out and shakes his hand, right? That guy was there. So what did I do? I blast a press release out. Hey, the Delmarva Shorebirds hired Joe Ferguson as their manager for the 2000 season. Joe Ferguson, as you write a press release, it's a 1-page press release always. So you give some facts, you give some background, you give some facts, and that's it. And you let them read it and look at it, get their facts that they want, come back to you with questions. Hey, well, Joe did this. Do you mind if we talk to Joe? Sure, yeah, come on down to the stadium. I'll set up an interview for you. Well, what if, I think it's better if you guys just come down here, write your articles, get the TV cameras out here. Let's really do this right. So we did a big press conference of Joe Ferguson being announced the Delmarva Shorebirds manager. Was it a big deal in the big world? No. Did people outside of Delmarva or the Baltimore care about it? No. But what did it do to our fans? Now we're exposing them to the baseball team 5 months before the season starts. You don't just forget about it when it's over. You've got to still expose them. It sells season tickets. Hey, people want to see Joe Ferguson. He was a big name in Maryland. He was a big name in baseball. Everyone knew Joe Ferguson. Well, that's the guy that was catching when Hank Aaron broke the record. Yeah, well, come see him. Come check him out. Come see how he manages. So that's what we did. And I wrote press releases every day for 4 weeks about Joe Ferguson. I literally pelted the media with information about him. Pelted them. There were articles written in all kinds of newspapers, TV interviews. When he hired his staff, I did a press release on his staff. I didn't even know who these guys were. Bien Figueroa? Who's Bien? Oh, he's a Dominican. He's going to help with the Dominican players. The Orioles had a lot of Dominican players in their minor league system. Okay, well, let's interview Bien. Let's see what he's about. He speaks a little English, so we did that. I constantly was bombarding the press with releases as much as I could. I became the official scorer for that team that year, about halfway through the season, which is a complete conflict of interest, by the way. So basically, as the official scorer, you're in the press box on home games. I had to watch a game. If it's a wild pitch, if it's a pass ball, if it's an error, you're deciding whether or not that happens. Now at the minor league level, that's a big deal. They don't want errors. They don't want wild pitches because it goes against them when they're being scouted, A, for other teams, and B, to move up in the system. So if I gave a guy an error that Joe didn't think should be an error, he was calling the press box up in 32 seconds after it was posted on the scoreboard. You got to take that off right now. Oh, and it didn't matter to me. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll take the error off. Even though Joe did go right through his wickets, or it hit the top of his glove and he dropped it. Technically that's, I don't care. No, just take it off. So it was a tough position for me to be in at that time because it puts you in a weird spot, and I'm still dealing with the media, and I'm still having to be this official scorer. People are kind of looking at you a little different. I didn't like it, but I did it for about 6 weeks until they found somebody else. Radio. I traveled with the team and was the color commentator on the radio for about half their home away games once the season started, which was a lot of fun. The play-by-play guy, Shane Griffin, his name was very good, but I got to be on the radio and call baseball games. At that time, now we're traveling to Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Summers are hot, right? It's 90 degrees. You're in crappy hotels. It's literally Bull Durham. You're riding a bus. There's no airplanes. It's single-A baseball. The buses are hot. The air conditioning doesn't work half the time. You get $20 a day in per diem for food. That's it. Your hotel's paid for, but it's no bigger than this counter. Small hotels, crappy stadiums, right? But I wouldn't have traded it for anything. It was one of the best experiences I ever did. And I got to be on the radio, which was cool too, and call baseball a little bit. So I really enjoyed that. And when I wasn't doing that, of course, I'm back in Salisbury working on what I needed to do there. We were the 2000 South Atlantic League champions. Had a really good team that year. We win the game. It was a 2-round playoff format is how they had it. So we win the championship at home. So right when it happens, I've got all this press. The press box is filled. I jammed it with as many people as I could. We win. The cameras go on the field. The guys are celebrating. I'm writing a press release to get it out. I got reporters. I got TV cameras in everyone's face, talking to guys, talking to coaches for the next 4 hours. We had a big party at a hotel and a conference room after. It was a spectacular night. I got a ring with some diamonds in it, which I've lost somehow down the road. Still not sure how or when, but I did. Which really stinks, actually. But that atmosphere that night was the culmination of all these reporters that were around that I had bugged all season to do things that did a great job covering our championship, and it got exposure in the Baltimore market. So now the Baltimore TVs and affiliates were picking it up because they had heard about this team all year. I didn't let them not know about us. They knew about us. They knew about this team. We had good prospects. Josh Hamilton was there a few times. Josh Hamilton, anyone know who Josh Hamilton is? Remember Cincinnati Reds, right? Huge prospect. He was a Tampa Bay draft pick. Huge prospect. When Josh Hamilton hit a baseball in batting practice, it was a different sound. It was like me hitting a golf ball and Tiger Woods hitting a golf ball, the difference of the sound. You knew this guy's going to be good because the sound it made off his bat when he hit it. It was hard, intense, and crisp every time. He was a great minor league player. He tore us up. But guys knew about him. Why? A lot of times because of what we did. I mediated him up the yin-yang. I wanted people to come see him. Come see this kid. Come see our prospects. That's what it's all about. Then we win the championship. And all these media and all these press are coming up to me after saying, you know what, Justin? That was the best season we've ever had here because of the work your department did, how you got us out here every day. You didn't let us quit. We were here. You got information to us. I hope you're sticking around next year. I hope you're here for a long time. That'd be great. Please, please, please. Who did I meet? I spoke about some minor league players. Ripken Jr. was a guy I met several times. He would come down. I gave him a tour of our stadium a couple times because he was building a facility at that time in Aberdeen, which is now all done now. It's a big Little League type of facility. He tailored a lot of that around how our stadium was constructed and built. Brady Anderson was a guy that I met quite a bit. Eddie Murray I met a few times. You see all these guys around. I got a Cal Ripken autograph on a picture that I got of him hitting his 400th home run that the Orioles PR department gave me. Other than that, I was never really an autograph hunter. Josh Hamilton signed a ball for me. Jason Worth, that was about it. I didn't really go after that. Some guys did. Some guys wanted their autographs and they would go after it. To me, my job was to report or help them out, not to get their autographs. Which some people do, some people don't. I never thought it was an appropriate professional thing to do, even though I was right there around them all the time. The best person I got to meet doesn't have anything to do with baseball, because I had a huge crush on Faith Hill back then. I didn't really care about her music, but I just had a huge crush on her, and the guy that worked was the PR announcer, C.R. Hook is his name. I bugged him constantly for an autographed picture of Faith Hill because he worked for Warner Brothers Records at the time. And every day I would ask him, hey, C.R., did you get that autographed picture of Faith Hill for me? Here, you want me to spell my name for you right again? And every day I bug him and bug him and bug him. So finally he set this up for me. I actually got to meet her. That's me. Well, yeah, I was better looking back then. Had a lot more hair too. Yeah. So I got to meet Faith Hill. I don't know what I said. Apparently I said some things. I gave her a bag of, I think her daughters were young girls at that time, 2, 3 years old, whatever, maybe 4 years old. So I gave them a couple mascot things. I gave her a hat. I even gave Tim something, even though I didn't really care about him. I think I was trying to get her to stray away from him at the time. But I threw my business card in there too. So what ended up happening was they wanted to come to a game the following season, and she had wrote me a couple times. She really thought it was neat that I gave her some things, and I made a good impression. So yeah, we were like pen pals. It was great. Pen pals with Faith Hill. So because of what I decided to do a few months later, that never did happen. The other guy that I got to meet was Dale Earnhardt Sr. a few months before he died. That fall in 2000, he bought a minor league baseball team in Kannapolis, North Carolina, which is where he was from. And he redesigned this whole stadium. He renamed the team the Kannapolis Intimidators. I'm not a big NASCAR fan, even back then I was even less. But meeting Dale Earnhardt Sr. and his wife Denise, the guy was the best businessman I ever met in my life. Smart as a tack, knew how to run his businesses. Racing for him was like 10% of what he did. He had his hands into everything. And we were scheduled to play them on their opening night that following April. So we were setting up this big event, opening day, opening stadium, Dale Earnhardt's new team. Well, he passes away I'll get to that one next. He passes away in February at Daytona. So we do this whole big thing, because have met with him probably 5 or 6 times by then. We do this whole big mural thing at the shopping mall, these 8-foot tables, big piece of paper. It must have covered 50 or 60 feet. And all these people came in and signed their names and wrote notes. Again, I'm not a big NASCAR fan, but that was like Elvis dying. Like, these people were crushed and hurt. And what we ended up doing was I mailed it to his wife after everyone signed it off. And she wrote me back a nice little letter thanking me for it, how nice it was. At that time, I was still thinking, well, of course I'm going to be around, in April for the opening day, so I'll see her then. But as the world works, I got a phone call in March of 2001, so kind of right before the season started, from a friend that I had that was working with the Detroit Lions, a guy that I went to high school with, coincidentally. And he said, hey, we're looking for some people to help us transition from the Silverdome to Ford Field. Ford Field was just being constructed at that time. I've mentioned your name a few times. Do you mind flying in for an interview? He knew where I was. So I said, yeah, I'll do that. Why not? At that time I'm thinking minor league baseball, professional football, that's got to be an upgrade a little bit, right? So I fly out, I interview for the position, fly back to Maryland. 2 days later, they offer me a job as a ticket operations supervisor at that time and sales. So now I got to make a decision. So I tell the general manager of the team that I was at, the Shorebirds, hey, this is what's on the table. What do you think? Well, of course, he wasn't happy about it. Comcast SpectraCorp at that time owned the Shorebirds. They had bought them out from Maryland Baseball. Comcast SpectraCorp owned the 76ers, the Flyers. These baseball teams, they had their hands in a lot of stuff, not just TV. Comcast SpectraCorp in East Coast is huge, huge. The vice president of the company flies to Maryland to talk to me. Hey, we can't lose you. That's the first thing he says, we can't lose you. What it's going to take? Well, here's this offer, so you need to pay me this to stay. Because at some point it's got to be about money a little bit, right? He says, well, I don't know if we can do that. And I said, his name was Jimmy, and I said, Jimmy, I love you. You guys have been great to me. It's been a great experience, but I really think at this point it's time for me to move on. This is a good opportunity. I'm going to open a new building. Not a lot of people get a chance to open a new building. It's something I want. It gets me back to Michigan. Not that I miss Michigan, believe me, because living on the beach was awesome. I didn't miss it at all. Sometimes I regret moving back to Michigan. But at the time, I thought, this is what I need to do to help my career a little bit and to kind of go forward and to see something else. I've done it, right? I did the minor league thing. I was there. I did a good job. I did everything I could. So I moved on. And when I decided on my future and weighed all those options, the best thing for me at that time was to take this next step. Was it the right decision? Maybe not. Do you want to leave people hanging like that right before the season? That was tough for me because I knew they were going to be in trouble trying to find someone to come in 4 weeks before the season started with to step in and take over. So that was a tough part of it too, and it really did weigh on me a lot. It's something I considered a great deal. At a time I thought maybe I'll get them through 4 or 5 weeks and then move, but they didn't want me to do that. The Lions wanted me there then, so I decided to work for the Detroit Lions. So I moved back to Michigan, got a house in Rochester, lived with my cousin. Again, the Lions were still at the Silverdome. So I get hired. A couple weeks later, Matt Millen gets hired. He hires Marty Morningweg, right? So they're building the future. We're moving to a new stadium. It's the last year at the Silverdome, which wasn't a big hoopla like you saw the other night when they closed Joe Louis at that last game. It just kind of ended there for that. So my big responsibility as a ticket operations supervisor at that time was the move from the Silverdome to Ford Field, basically with the season ticket holders. They're going from an 80,000 seat facility to a 62,000 seat facility. People that have sat in this seat at the 50-yard line for 50 years aren't going to be in the seat at the 50-yard line at Ford Field. They're going to be at the 30-yard line. So how do you deal with that? Because people weren't happy. You couldn't take a carbon copy of the Silverdome and put it over Ford Field and say, everyone's got the same tickets. And the way that we did the relocation process for seats, it went in order. So people had season tickets dating back to 1950. It had all the files from season tickets from 1950 to 2000. People bought tickets the last year at the Silverdome to get into Ford Field. So we had 50,000 season ticket holders at that time when we left the Silverdome and went to Ford Field, which is a huge amount, 51,000. So now you got to reseat all these people. Now you got to tell them, hey, you know what, you're not going to be at the 50-yard line anymore, but it's a better facility, it's a better stadium, it's a little closer. It's not like the Silverdome that had the 90-degree angles going up to second and third level. You know, who's been to Ford Field? You ever been to Ford Field? You know, it's a great little place, and it's gotten better over the years. So people weren't happy. What we did was we moved after that summer was over with and that season was over with. We moved downtown to an office in Harmony Park while they were finishing Ford Field. We had season ticket holders come in. They got a relocation packet. They had to fill all this information of where they wanted to sit. Of course, where does everyone want to sit? At the 50-yard line. So we brought them in. I oversaw this. I had to oversee this whole process of people coming in and sitting down in front of a computer screen picking out seats. That's how we did it from people from 1950 to 1975. People after that, you just got sent, here's your seats. Because we didn't have time to bring 50,000 people in, or 30,000, whatever that number was. People weren't happy about it. There were articles written in the Free Press and the news about the Detroit Lions are screwing their season ticket holders over. People went to the press. They went to the media. Now, me coming from my media relations background, I immediately went to that department and said, listen, you guys got to put this fire out right now or it's going to get ugly. You need to interview some people that are having a good experience with their seats, that they understand the process, that it's not easy, that we're doing the best we can. Get these people on camera, in the paper, because all you got now is negative press, and it's killing you. So that's what they did. They went and interviewed people that had a good experience. As I was talking to people as they were coming in that I knew weren't screaming and yelling at our ticket reps, because some people did, I would get them at the door. Hey, do you mind if this guy talks to you for a minute? He wants to get some. Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. And so for a month and a half, that's what we did every day. It was stressful. It was tedious. It sucked. It was horrible. It was a bad experience. I don't think they did it right to start with. I think they kind of crammed some things in that they shouldn't have. They didn't get information to people in a timely manner. Again, I wasn't involved in that part of the process. I kind of wish I was back at the time because I probably could have helped them a little bit. As you're the front line dealing with season ticket holders, when the stadium opened, the first game was against Pittsburgh, preseason game. People sat in seats that fell apart. Like literally the bottoms fell out because they weren't screwed. Or they didn't have cup holders in place yet. So everyone was guaranteed a cup holder. You know what happened when they sat in their seats? Everyone from the row down and this guy at the end didn't have a cup holder. But it says in my form I'm guaranteed a cup holder. He don't got one. Why? I don't know. I asked the question a few times and I never got an answer. But it says in the form, this is what people told me, Justin, it says, you guys wrote this. It says, I have a cup holder. I sit in my seat on the aisle. I don't have a cup holder. What are you going to do about it? Well, nothing. What can I do about it? So I was dealing with all those calls of people complaining, hey, man, my seat fell in. I had to go this. For a couple games, it took a month to get everything really set in that stadium. And they're going to find that out in Little Caesars Arena, too. It doesn't all just come together at one time. It's a huge endeavor what they're doing. Ford Field being constructed down there in the old Hudson warehouse was a huge deal. We were in that building all the time walking around. When they put the first set of seats in, they had suite seats. Anyone want to sit in the suite seats at Ford Field? The black leather seats where your knees are up in your chest and you're right next to people. Well, they had these in the lobby where we were in the Silverdome. They were selling these suite seats. They had one suite seats in here. So people come in and sit in the seat. Hey, man, boy, this is comfortable. Yeah, I'll pay $1,500 a ticket for a season for this thing. Yeah, this is great. They put them in the stadium. We sit in them. The first time, we sit in them. We got a guy about your size on the staff at the time. He sat in, his knee was in his chin. He was like, how much? I'm paying $1,500 for this seat? Even a 5'11" guy like me, it stunk. So, hey, well, that's it. That's the seat. Well, it's not how you advertised it. What are people going to say when they sit in this thing? They weren't happy. That's what happened. And the first thing I got was, how are you going to deal with it? And there really wasn't nothing we could do. We just had to get through that part of the process. So, in tough times with the Lions, right? 0-16, not winning many games. I went through all that stuff, all of those. I think I saw 4 wins in Ford Field the 8 years I was there. It wasn't fun. Super Bowl 40 was something I worked on a lot. That was a big deal, 2006. So I was involved with that project quite a bit. That was a lot of fun, being in meetings, trying to figure that stuff out. And then I moved on. I left Ford Field after the 2006 season. And now I work in the restoration industry. I'm the general manager of a mitigation and restoration company and deal with marketing, PR, managing jobs. I got out of sports. I got burnt out. And it happens. It happens. But that's okay. For me, now I coach. I coach basketball. I've been coaching basketball for 15 years. There's a picture of the team that won a championship a couple years ago, 8th grade, which is really fun to me. I've been doing it for 15 years. I've won 6 league championships in 15 years, so I've gotten to be pretty good. I didn't know what I was doing at first. I'll admit it. I knew how to play basketball. I didn't know how to coach it. It's a whole different animal. The first game that we played, the ball went out of bounds under the basket, and the kids were looking at me, and I didn't put an out of bounds play in. So now you got to call a timeout. But now, obviously I don't do that anymore. We've built a good program from the 4th grade on up. To me, it's all about the kids. Whoever ever gets in coaching in this room, don't deal with parents. Parents are stupid. I talk to parents one time at the parents' meeting, and that's it. And I do not deal with them the rest of the season because they will run you right out of the building if they can. Alumni come back a lot. The neat thing for me is I get to see these kids in the high school, playing in high school. They all come back. That's the most satisfying thing to me about coaching. Not the win so much, but seeing the kids go on to high school, go on to college, a few of them have. That's a big thing for me. So, thank you. I probably talked a little too long. But questions?